So a scalable mortgage business requires two very important engines, right? It requires a supply engine and it requires a demand engine. You need both of these like a heartbeat, right? The supply engine, that is having repeatable systems and a team to deliver loans efficiently. And you need a demand engine. That's marketing and partnerships, a way of consistently generating a flow of clients. Now, here's the problem. Most brokers, and I've seen this over the last 20 years, hundreds and hundreds of case studies from working with brokers, most brokers build the supply engine first. And then they assume that demand will magically appear through referrals. And sure, referrals are great, but number one, they're passive demand. Passive demand is unpredictable, and unpredictable demand means you've got no control. And no control means you've got no scale. So the goal is simple. We want to help you move from passive demand to controlled demand. And that's what I want to go through in this short training, which is what we call the demand zone and demand control, which we shared with our members earlier in the year in Melbourne at one of our closed door member events. Now, before I show you how this works, let me explain a typical broker growth pattern, right? Stage one, broker starts solo, works hard, does really well, gives good service, gets referrals. Great. We're now getting in demand because we're good at what we do. So what do? We're under the pump. So we hire some admin to help us deliver on all of these on this service, right? And we build some systems and we improve the delivery capacity. We hire even more support. That's what happens in stage three. We hire more support, admin, processors, parabrokers, credit analysts. We're growing this delivery machine. And the problem with this, yes, it's great to have team and systems, but most brokers will grow typically through organic demand, right? There's a certain level of demand there just because they're good at what they do and they can't get to everybody, right? The phone's ringing, emails are coming in. I can't keep up with the demand just because I'm good at what I do. So I hire admin, I build systems, I build and get more and more team to help me, expanding my capacity. And then we get to the point where now we've actually got all of this capacity, but we haven't increased demand. The ability for that shining star broker to generate sufficient demand for this now serious sized delivery machine is just not there. Like demand never evolved. There was no time and attention ever put on marketing and systemizing of partnerships. So they've got this huge supply engine and a really small demand engine, right? And which is the complete opposite of a scalable model in business, right? You can't ignore lead generation and marketing. This is what happens with all these broker businesses I come across. They build from solo to a good team, and then they realize they don't have enough leads. And then what they do is they go and turn on marketing, partner with agencies, buy leads, do all these clutch at straw, not really smart things because now they're desperate to feed the capacity, right? And it just doesn't work. So what we want to do instead, and I'll show you a framework in a minute, we want to build demand first, right? You want to build demand first, and then you want to expand supply to meet the demand, right? So if you think of it like this, demand pulls the business forward and then supply follows, right? If supply leads and demand lags, then growth is going to stall and your profit is going to suffer. You're going to have all this team and not enough work, right? Now, one thing before I go into the framework is that the objective here is not just to get more leads, right? It's a controlled and sustained demand where demand actually exceeds capacity. And most brokers freak out when I show them this because the default for most brokers is just to help every single person that comes over the desk into the office and calls in this lack mentality. We've just got to help everybody, right? And we work harder and harder and longer hours chasing our tail just to help everybody. Most brokers are not used to being in the situation where we have more demand than we have supply. And I use the analogy of, let's just call it a cafe, or even better, I love ramen, a ramen shop, Japanese ramen, right? And a lot of the most famous ramen places, especially in parts of Japan, when I love Japan, is they have one pot of ramen and they make, let's call it 200 bowls of ramen a day. And when they're sold out of ramen, they put a sold out sign on the door and they go home. They don't try and make up more ramen as they go. Like this is what most mortgage brokers do, is they don't understand supply and demand. So let's go through this in some more detail. So here's what usually happens in almost all mortgage business that I see. We've got supply and demand on this curve, and we've got time on the other curve. So it kind of looks like this. Let's sort of draw this red line like that. And that's the supply and demand. You can see that it's going up and down, up and down. So what's really going on here is a few things to be aware of. So most mortgage businesses rely on organic traffic, organic word of mouth referrals, and they're not really in control of it. What is actually happening is they're completely reactive to what comes across the desk. If the phone rings, the phone rings. If someone walks in the door, they walk in the door, but they're reactive to it. They are not in control of their demand for their business and their services. So what ends up happening is when you're organic and reactive is you become heavily reliant on other people, and it becomes essentially completely random. As you can see, this red line is completely random. And when you rely on this red random up and down line, a few things happen, and they're not great things, right? We can say that the demand is unpredictable. So you end up with unpredictable demand. Feast and famine, super busy, can't keep up, and then nothing. Every mortgage broker has and can relate to that. Secondly, the issue here that I see time and time again is what we're going to call unaware supply. So most brokers are not in control of their demand, but they also have no idea what the constraints and capacity of their supply are. A ramen shop, there's 100 liters of soup. It can make me 300 bowls of ramen. Otherwise, I run out of soup or I run out of noodles. Got it. We know our supply. But a mortgage broker, let's say a mortgage broker with 3 or 4 support team, show me 1,000 mortgage brokers and probably not one would actually be able to tell me what their supply is. How many clients can you and your team actually look after and deliver in a reasonable time frame to meet client demands and still keep up with everything else in the business without having to work harder than 9 to 5, Monday to Friday? No brokers, almost none, understand their supply constraints. So what ends up happening when we have unpredictable demand and unaware supply is a few things. The first one is we end up stressing, always stressing about where's that next deal going to come from. The second thing is that we get a whole range of clients. So we'll call it the A to Z of clients. You get A-list clients all the way through to Z. You get every type of deal, every type of employment, niche. I want a car, I want an investment property, first-time buyers, everybody, right? You're dealing with the whole gamut. And really what ends up happening is this becomes a complete roller coaster of a business. It's not a very good business to have that's reactive and organic and just relying and hoping. I actually call this, if we really think about it, this is the hope zone. Like it's the hold on for dear life and hope that everything's going to be okay. Business is going to come in, we hope. We've got this team, we've got to pay wages, we've got to pay bills, we need to pay ourselves, but we're reactive, we're reliant, we have not predictable demand, we have no idea how much supply we've got. We deal with all sorts of clients and there's tons of stress and ups and downs. If you can relate to this, you're not alone. Almost all brokers are in this position, right? So what we want to do is we want to do it the smarter way, right? And I'm going to draw a line. Let's just draw a green line. Oh, let's try that again. Try and do a flat one. I'm going to draw a green line here. And I'm going to call this the supply zone. So when we're talking about supply and demand, just like the ramen, The person that owns the ramen shop knows that they can sell 300 bowls of ramen and then they sell out, go home, shut the door. It doesn't matter if somebody's walking in desperate for a ramen. I'm sorry, we're sold out, right? So mortgage brokers, the most important thing you need to do and start with is you need to set your supply zone. So this supply zone, this line, it's a set line. Now, if it's just you, if it's you plus one, two, three, four, five support team, credit analysts, maybe other brokers in your team, whatever team you've got right now, you have a specific supply that you can deliver to. You can supply, i.e., work with this many clients and do this many loans per week and per month. We call that sustainable capacity, and there's a way of calculating it. We do this with clients with a spreadsheet, and it's probably the most important metric you can understand in your business. So, first thing we do, set supply. Know what we've got to sell, right? Now, the beauty of setting supply is a couple of things, right? When we set supply, a few things are going to happen. Well, actually, before we get into that, let me talk about demand. So we first set supply. The next thing we want to do is we want to think about demand. So if we've got a particular volume of supply, that level is here, well, we want the demand to be at that, if not higher than that, right? So I'm going to call this purple zone here. So everything above the green line is what we call the demand zone, right? And this is, we create the demand zone. So we set supply and we create demand. We do not hope that demand is higher than supply. We create it, right? And how do we create it? Well, we're going to do a few things. In order to create demand that's outstripping supply, there's too many people out the door for what we can help. That's a good problem to have. Well, number one, it's got to be resourced. So in terms of creating demand, we're talking about marketing, lead generation, partnerships. Well, you've got to resource that area of the business, right? i.e., it's going to take time and money and focus and attention, right? It has to be sufficiently resourced and prioritized in a business. And most mortgage businesses do not prioritize or resource this enough. Second thing, so once we resource to it, we're going to put time and money into it. We need to then set up a very clear system. We need to do a setup and a system and have a very clear strategy about what we're going to do. So we put resources in, we do an initial setup, we understand what we're going to do, we build the system, and then we roll out the strategy, right? And here's what happens. I'm not going to go through today exactly how to create demand far outweighing your supply. And that's, what we do with our members behind the scenes. In terms of today, what I want you to be aware of is two things. That being in the red is no way to run a business, and the smarter way, which is to set supply and create demand. Now, when you achieve this and you've set your supply and you're generating more than that demand in a proactive, consistent, predictable way, then a few cool things really start to happen. So what we can do is when we're generating a lot of demand, more demand than we can actually supply, we then have the luxury of being able to filter the types of clients that we want to work with. We can highly qualify them. We can get them to self-sort, and an even better thing is we can charge fees. So when your demand is up here, but your supply is here, think about it. You've got 50 people out the door and you've got room for 10 clients this week or this month. Who are you going to pick, right? It's now up to you. You've got the power to filter. You're going to go out to those 50 people and go, right, who has high intent, who's ready to go right now, who wants my help, and anybody else that's not ready can get filtered out, right? So you get this position of power to filter and qualify and even start to charge fees, right? So many good things happen when you create demand and set supply. On the flip side, I would say, of a roller coaster, right, is it ends up as a bit of a road trip of a business. Roller coaster, kind of fun, a little bit scary. Road trips are a blast. You're out on the open road, no cares in the world, having a great time. That's the sort of business you want to create. A road trip business, not a roller coaster. A road trip's fun, it's predictable, we're going good places, right? So, road trip business. Second is, well, we can let in the A-listers only. We're a popular business. We've got demand far outweighing how many people we can work with. So we can pick and choose and only work with the A-list clients. And you don't have to deal with the B's and the C's and all the way through to the Z's. And you can even create a waiting list. How cool is that as a business to get to the point where you don't have this up and down roller coaster of demand? You don't know where that next deal is going to come from. You're always stressing and having to deal with all types of clients. You can just say, here's the number of clients we can help. We're only going to work with this sort of person. We're going to create the waiting list. And that is a very fun, profitable, sustainable business. And you can let every other broker out there run around doing the ups and downs, word of mouth, reactive, just like everybody else, right? So that's what we want to do. That's what demand control is all about. The biggest problem that mortgage brokers run into is the supply zone and the demand zone, right? These are the two big issues. Number one, most mortgage brokers don't set supply. And if they do set it, they don't stick to it. And what ends up happening is they end up running around trying to over-service clients, taking on too many people, and then they break themselves and their team and burn out. Happens all the time. So most brokers don't understand or stick to it. And then secondly, they just don't understand how to create demand, right? They understand how to be good at what they do. They understand how to talk to people. And because you're good at what you do, yes, you get the occasional referral and word of mouth, right? But being able to generate consistent, predictable inflow of qualified prospects is a systemized engine, a demand engine that encapsulate key partnerships, content, marketing, and so on. And of course, to create that, you need the right frameworks and you need the right intel, which we can provide you. But most importantly, you've got to resource it. You've got to prioritize it in your business and you've got to stick to it over a period of time. Because again, most brokers either don't know how to do it and they won't stick to it. And then again, demand falls apart and they just go back to the roller coaster, that red line of up and down, running a business in the hope zone. So what we want to do is I guess in summary, a real business like yours, or what it can become, a real business knows how many things they can sell each day, right? 500 bowls of ramen, 13 mortgages. They know how long it takes to make each bowl of ramen or to do each mortgage, right? They know how much it costs to make the mortgage or to make the ramen, and they know the profit margin, right? So we've got to start with supply and understanding the mechanics and numbers around a mortgage business, again, which most brokers have never been taught. It's one of the key things we do at Big. Second, a real business makes sure that their product or service is world class. So that organic word of mouth and repeat business does a lot of the heavy lifting. Well, that's great. You definitely still have to do that. But also a real business invests in marketing and partnerships in a systematic way to ensure a constant stream of new customers coming in the door to ensure you're always fully booked or sold out with a line out the door, right? That's creating demand. And then finally, a real business knows what they stand for, what they offer, who they serve, who they don't, and how many people they can serve, right? And they don't deviate from that. I've been to plenty of amazing places in Japan, whether it's ramen shops, listening bars, cocktail bars, and all of them understand this to a T. They all know what they're about, what they offer, who can come in, what the rules are, and they set the tone. And these places have lines out the door, right? And not deviating from that. So I didn't say this was easy because when you get to this point, it's like having fun and printing money. So it's not easy. It means, you need to resource it. You need to do some work. You need to understand how to make this work. But what would you prefer? What's easier? Would you rather take the easy road and keep on the red roller coaster up and down constantly, stressful, not knowing what's going to come next? Or do you want to do the hard work of setting up demand and setting supply and really understanding that in your business so you can later have it easy? I guess I'll let you make the choice. But there you go. That's what we taught to our members. Well, that was part one of what we taught to our members earlier in the year 2026 in Melbourne. Demand control, we then went into some frameworks about how to actually create that demand through marketing and partnerships. That's some of the stuff we do inside of Big and 10X. So hopefully for today, you have gotten a bit of an eye-opener in terms of, are you on the green line? Are you on the red line? How does your business look? And where do you want to go next? I'll leave that up to you. Stay tuned for more videos, insights, and more right here. See you next time.